Hey everybody, this is Rachel McIntosh. I'm one of the cryptocurrency editors at Finance Magnates and also the most regular host of the Finance Magnates blockchain podcast. Recently, I sat down with Daniel Skowronski, who's the co-founder and CEO of DX Exchange, and we talked about what needs to happen in the cryptocurrency industry in order for more institutional investors to be supported there, and what DX Exchange is doing in order to accomplish that goal. Daniel is also going to be speaking as a panelist at the upcoming Finance Magnates London Summit that's taking place on November 14th at the Old Billingsgate. It's a major crypto and FX event. We are working really hard to make sure it's the absolute best that it can be, and we would love to see you there. So Daniel, can you tell us just a little bit about who you are, your professional journey, and how you got involved with DX Exchange?
Sure. I mainly grew up in the trading space. So I was a wheat pit trader back in the early 90s on the Minneapolis Grain Exchange in the United States. That's sort of where I learned how to kind of trade and actually trade with my own money. I was quite successful, and I moved into the interbanking FX world. So I was one of the, I worked for a number of large institutions such as HSBC, Credit Suisse, First Boston, all over the world. I lived in several different countries. I grew up in the whole internet phase, so I was always interested in technology. So I'm a self-taught programmer on C++ and Java. And I really got into artificial intelligence in the 2000s. And eventually I joined a company called Kernix, where we built out a retail division, and it was more of an institutional platform, but I built out the retail division for them. And that was quite successful. And then we passed that on to State Street. And then in the early 2010, I got into the online trading space with FX and CFD space. And I worked for two of the largest brokers, I guess, in the world, growing them. And I was both in CEO roles in both of those instances. So I kind of came from the whole online trading space. How I got into DX is, as maybe some of our audience will know, the CFD space has been heavily scrutinized and regulated over the last few years, and it's been making it more and more difficult to actually do business. And quite frankly, I was just getting frustrated with the constant changes, the unknown certainty, and I decided to actually just leave the space and focus more on technology. And as I mentioned, I really liked AI, and I have my own artificial intelligence company, and I was going to go focus on that. And then a friend of mine basically started telling me about what he was doing over here in Israel about an exchange product and bringing derivatives on exchange, which are the same products that were on a broker side. And it looked quite interesting. And then when he told me that NASDAQ was involved as well, that became very, very interesting for me. And when the crypto world kind of took off in 2017, it was all about unregulation, everything, and user adoption. Suddenly it felt like, you know what, not only derivatives should be on this exchange, but also should crypto. So I got heavily involved. I invested into the company, became a co-founder, and now we're getting ready to launch DX Exchange.
Okay, yeah. So speaking of DX Exchange, so this is said to kind of stand apart in the industry by integrating NASDAQ's matching engine. So can you tell us a little bit about how that connection was made and how this is going to work, what kinds of benefits it will provide the exchange?
Yeah. Again, originally the idea was to offer derivative products on exchange, so like CFDs, indices, FX. And that's because, again, from my experience on the broker side, the regulatory bodies were really pushing to, I think really their main goal is really have everything on exchange. They don't like this broker-trader conflict of interest. So that's when we originally started off with NASDAQ, was building out the derivatives part. But as I just mentioned, in 2017, when the whole crypto space kind of blew up, and there was much more mainstream adoption, it just made sense to add the whole crypto aspect to the platform. Now, we started with NASDAQ actually in late 2016 with the design study. It literally took us a year to just put the whole design study, because NASDAQ was originally built for stocks and some bonds, and sure, it's traded in 70 other exchanges around the globe, but the product set that we were offering was a bit unique to NASDAQ at this point. So there was a big long-term design study, which we finished in November of last year. We signed the contract with them, and we started the integration this year. And just to be clear, what we're integrating with them is their matching engine only. So it's where we have a pure P2P, person-to-person matching of the trades. We're building all the technology around it. And the NASDAQ engine has several advantages for us. One, we actually had to be regulated to actually do business with them. And I'm not talking about some small ABC, kind of regulation. It actually had to be one of the major jurisdictions which were regulated under the EU, under MiFID II and ISMA. We're following those rules. And then also, because the way the NASDAQ matching engine works, it doesn't allow market makers to trade with market makers or themselves. So, the crypto world has this really big problem with fake volumes out there. And this is one thing that for sure on our exchange is even our own matching engine doesn't allow that kind of cross collateralization. So it's also, again, proven technology. One thing I think will also be beneficial is we're getting a lot of institutional investors, asset managers wanting to trade on the platform, coming to trade on the platform. And one thing that they really enjoy is the API that they can connect to and they can connect directly with the NASDAQ API. And so again, there's a lot of exchanges out there, and there's some really good exchanges out there with some good technology, but a majority of these exchanges don't have the type of API or technology that is needed for the institutional players. So, and also most of these institutional players are already connected to NASDAQ in one way. So it became kind of a good competitive advantage from an institutional perspective as well. So that's the relationship with our partnership with NASDAQ.
I see. So you said something interesting there, which was that there's a big problem with fake volumes on crypto exchanges. Can you just elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, look, I think at last count I was reading this morning, there's something over 1,000 exchanges around the globe, a majority of which are no regulation, and then a handful trying to get properly licensed, or there's a few that are, following some sort of rules. There's exchanges out there clearly that make markets themselves. So, for example, under our regulations, we're not allowed to even be a market maker on the exchange. So a lot of these exchanges are market makers themselves. A lot of exchanges add market makers who basically are just there to pump up volume, do buys and sells, and just cross trades. There's a lot of exchanges out there that allow these trading bots, which basically do the same thing. Two ways actually that we also help to eliminate this is we're also using a surveillance system, which basically looks at the exchange and all the activity, and it can follow whether or not there's a pump and dump happening on some particular pair, or if there's some weird, strange volume that's going through, or the pricing seems to be off. It can alert us immediately so that we can basically manage it and take a look at what's going on. So we have a really, really good insight to what's happening on the exchange across multiple pairs and volumes. The other aspect is we require every token or cryptocurrency that comes to our exchange to have a market maker. And we're not talking like they can just buy some bot and allow it to market make, or just come and throw the coin token up there and just let it trade. No, they actually have to have a real market maker, and that market maker also must be approved by us. So we already have a number of market makers that we are pre-approved, and we can introduce them to them. They would do their own separate deal with them to manage their token liquidity and market price, but they have to use one of our approved. Now, if their market maker is not on our approved list, we can get them on there. But we usually typically look at things like who are the market maker, what's behind them, are they licensed in their jurisdiction. So we really want to eliminate this whole space around the fake volumes, and this is how you get the institutional money, and this is how you get wider adoption from the people who are standing on the sideline, who are kind of getting fatigued with all this unregulation and all these exchanges that are bouncing around from jurisdictions to jurisdictions, or just in strange countries, if you want to trade something, you have to go to some country that, you never really maybe have been a part of or heard of. So, that's kind of where how we manage the fake volume side.
Okay, I see. Um, so you have licenses from both Estonia and from Cyprus, is that correct?
So just to be clear, on the Estonia side, we have two types of license. One is where it allows us to hold fiat currency. It allows us to trade that fiat into crypto, and then crypto to crypto, and crypto back to fiat. The second license is a custodial license. So we have a full custodial service to be able to hold crypto on behalf of somebody. So this is what's a really big advantage from the again, institutional side, where a lot of these asset managers want to come to the platform and they want to buy crypto, but they don't want to have the responsibility to store the crypto themselves or carry it around on a ledger device, right?
Stick, yeah.
So we can actually, we have the license to be able to hold that on their behalf. Obviously, we can also hold it on individuals' behalf if they don't want to have their own wallet or take it off outside our ecosystem. And in terms of the CISIC license, just to understand what we have there is. We've applied for a MTF license, which is an exchange license equivalent in the United States. In the European Union, and we're using that license to more for the derivative side as well as the security token offering that we'll be coming out with. So for the DX exchange on the utility token crypto side, we're only utilizing the Estonia, and just to be clear, the Estonia is under EU directive. And we follow the MiFID II and the ISMA rules and regulations in terms of KYC, AML, trade reporting, client reporting, etc. Right. So it's the same regulation that, say, HSBC or Bank of America or any of the brokers in other countries, Germany, UK, that are following.
So as far as the custody service is concerned, is there a minimum amount of crypto that needs to be stored in order for that custody service to be used, or is that something that's kind of open to maybe smaller investors as well?
It's wide open right now.
Okay.
As I mentioned, it's look, we have the ability and the license to be able to hold it, and we have all the resources and the storage, cold storage, and the security and everything around that. And look, if even just a standard individual trader comes and wants us to hold his one Bitcoin for him, we can do that. Or if somebody wants to come and hold their 10,000 Bitcoin, we can do that as well.
Right. Okay. The exchange was open to registration in June, but trading still has not launched on the exchange. Is that right?
Correct. So, we had a story break in May about our launch. It was a bit unexpected, which turned out to be a good thing and a bad thing. It was a bit early, so that's the bad side. The good thing was it brought a lot of awareness to us, and we worked really hard to open up a registration process. So you're right, in June that opened up. Between June, I guess it was really more like late May. So late May through June and into early July, we had over 500,000 people come and register from around the globe. It's closing now to 600,000 that's out there. On July 2nd, we actually opened up full KYC and registration for the exchange. Okay. So we're processing thousands of users every day and getting their KYC and AML done. The advantage of it, without trading yet, is that people can come, understand who we are, get their accounts open, and get ready so that when we do launch on day one, all they have to do is fund with either fiat or crypto. So as I said, we can accept fiat and or crypto, and start trading, rather than having to try to go through the process and getting stuck and maybe waiting days or weeks in the big crush, right? So there has been a bit of an advantage for us to allow us to start onboarding these hundreds of thousands of clients to be ready to start trading on day one.
Right. Yeah, definitely. So when is the exchange set to go live? Is there a date?
That's the multi-billion-dollar question.
Literally.
So, look, we're doing everything we can to get it launched here in Q3. We're looking at everything from security, from more enhancements. We decided that we want to have more tokens launch on an exchange. Originally, we were only going to launch with 6. This number could be now as many as say 11 to 20 or 25, perhaps somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
And we were doing a private sale on our token, and we had so many really good and strong investor interest that we were in a fortunate position to start picking and choosing, not just because someone wanted to invest a certain amount, but more of what kind of partnership later down the road that they can provide or help us, whether it's helping us in a certain country through building a community, or from a technology standpoint, or through a VC standpoint as we continue to grow. And that actually closed just this past Sunday on August 12th. And so that was another thing we wanted to kind of get through before we launched the exchange. We are in the middle of a beta testing phase with a handful of our pre-registered users. So those who've already registered and gone through the KYC and been approved, they're randomly being picked. Every day people are being picked to join the exchange and come on and start testing it out for us. So we're hoping at some point here in Q3 we'll be able to go live and open this up to everybody.
Okay. And so how are you, with all the competition that's happening in the crypto space right now as far as exchanges are concerned, how are you making sure that these users who onboarded in May and in June are going to stick around until the exchange officially goes live?
It's a great question. Look, I'll answer it a couple different things there. So, as far as the competition that's out there, I believe that we're doing things very differently. We're partnering with the right people. We have the right regulation. We have amazing technology. People who have been beta testing, or people who have seen our videos or gotten sneak peeks of the platform, just find it incredible compared to what's out there today. I think our community is growing, and it's what you see in our Telegram group is certainly not reflective of our total community, because we have several different channels. But from the feedback that I see and people that I talk to, or the conference that I attend, and people coming up to us, they're really excited for us to come out. And I think also we've gotten probably, and we're very fortunate that we've gotten probably the most press of any new exchange in 2018, and probably one of the most anticipated exchanges to go live in 2018. I think there's like one or two opening every day, it seems like.
Yeah.
But we continue to get the users, which we really appreciate. And again, I think this kind of goes back to this. I think there's this fatigue that's setting in of, it's the same old thing that's kind of coming out, or it's the unregulated exchange, or there's just nothing new or fresh. And we have such great products and interfaces that nobody's ever seen before. And like I said, strong partners. And this is why, even though we're delaying the launch of the exchange by a couple weeks, I would rather delay the exchange for the few weeks and have an amazing user experience, because we're in this for the long run, rather than trying to worry about, well, what's going to happen to the people that signed up in May or June. And the second part of that too is, from my understanding in this space and from what I see, is users have multiple accounts in the exchanges. They don't just have one, they don't have two. I think I read somewhere the average is 4. We hope to be their number 1 or number 2. And the one thing I hope that people can appreciate is, look, just come on now, get your KYC out of the way, so that when we do go live, you don't regret, oh, I didn't get it done, and now I want to trade. And you can't, because there's a backlog of, again, hundreds of thousands of people trying to get on board. So, patience, I promise you the experience and the wait will be worth it.
All right. So
one last thing on that. In terms of the competition, again, look, there's a lot of really good exchanges out there that are doing some interesting things. And the way I look at it is, there's enough volume, there's enough people in this space. We've only scratched the surface of the availability for the user market. And I think DX has a chance to actually open that market up even wider to a bigger audience that hasn't even come on board yet. So, it's not just, I'm not just looking to cannibalize what's out there already. I'm looking to actually have the exchange open up to a whole new, type of investor, a whole new type of retail trader, a whole new type of institutional investor. So it's we're looking more at, the newer side. And, we've had tremendous support already from the original crypto community. So I'm happy to have them come on board as well.
Right. So when you say this new kind of investor, what does that look like to you?
So, I don't know. Have you have any crypto yourself?
I do.
Okay.
Yes.
So maybe if you can, how long have you had it for?
I think at this point, I started in the space last year, so it's been over a year at this point.
Okay. So if you remember perhaps your first time when you bought crypto, for me, it was a really daunting experience. I went to one particular place and I had to sign up and do KYC, and I did my credit card and I bought my Ethereum, and then I was all worried it's going to get hacked, so I got to move it to my Ethereum wallet. So I moved it over to my Ethereum wallet, and that was daunting to set up as well. And then I saw this one token that I wanted to trade, but there was only on this one exchange that was in some faraway land, and I had no idea. And I was like, but I got to trade it, so I got to go there. And I did another KYC, and then I ended up transferring it, and then I bought it, and then it was this really fragmented third-party transferring all over the place, and it was really kind of very unuser friendly.
Yeah.
And and I feel I'm very tech savvy, and it was still a challenge for me, and it was a long process to go from place to place. So, going to your original question is what I'm talking about as far as this new user is. I'm talking about the user who is just the average person who most likely they want to get in this space, but they're so afraid they're never going to get their money back out. Right. So they're going to change it from fiat to crypto, and then when they try to change it back to fiat, they won't be able to, or they won't be able to get it to their bank or something. One of the big advantages that we did here at DX was we decided to create an ecosystem that has all those components in one place. Right. So you can come in with your fiat, you can use it. We have our own credit card processing, PCI compliant processor. You can change it into Ethereum if you want. You can then hold it and store it in one of our, our vaults or our wallets, or you can go ahead and trade it into one of the favorite crypto tokens that you have that's trading on our exchange. And then when you're done with that, you can trade it back into the fiat, and then actually you can bring it back out. And the reason why is because for us, the banks and the regulatory body really like this, because you never leave the ecosystem. You don't take the money out, so there's a very easy to track from an AML perspective. Now, you can bring crypto as well to the exchange, and you can even exchange it to fiat, and you can also bring it out. But that'll be up to your bank whether they decide to accept that or not. But if for people who are new, or for those institutions, especially the asset managers or the bigger firms or the brokers that are out there that really are coming in initially with that fiat money, should have every confidence that they'll be able to get it out, because we have be able to have the full track record for them.
Gotcha. Okay. So recently you tweeted about the upcoming decision on DX Exchange's application for a U.S. license. Is that correct?
I didn't. It wasn't for DX's license. It was more around. If I think you're the tweet that you're referring to is where the ETF was denied, and I was talking about America isn't everything. Yes. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. So
yeah. Just to be clear, the tweet is for everybody out there. The tweet was, I didn't understand why the markets are constantly only reacting to American news.
Okay.
And in a negative way. When crypto is much bigger than just America. There's a bigger world. And by the way, I am American. I'm actually British as well. I have dual citizenship. But I am American, so I feel I have the right to say this, but America just isn't all crypto, right? So that's what was my tweet basically.
Right, exactly. So what do you think? So we've already had the denial of the Winklevoss ETF. And now there's this decision coming up on the VanEck Solid X ETF.
Yeah.
Do you think that a denial of this ETF will necessarily be a bad thing for the crypto
markets? Bad thing in terms for the crypto markets?
Yes.
Well, I mean, clearly, again, as pointing back to my post, is the markets seem to be reacting only to negative news out of the U.S. or when something like that happens.
Yeah.
My belief is that one of these ETFs will get approved. I think by working with the Chicago Board of Exchange, I think it is the CBOE, I think is where, if I remember right,
They also have an application.
where these ETFs are coming. Look, the one thing I do know in all my years of working with the regulatory guys out of the U.S. is they're very, very old school. And again, it's no disrespect to them. I think they're trying to adapt, but it's very hard for them. And you know, when something new comes along, I believe they absolutely want to adopt to it, but also they want to make sure that they're adopting the right way. So I think this is where perhaps by having it listed on the CBOE, where it's an old school exchange on something that they are familiar with, is much more a possibility rather than something coming out with I think unfortunately Gemini is fairly new and not well known yet in the industry, and it's a bit, I think, more daunting for them to approve something like that, which is a shame. But look, at the end of the day, I think an ETF will help with wider adoption. But again, it's not everything. And it's just interesting. I think the markets are looking for things to grab onto.
Yes.
They're just looking for something, and this happens to be one of them.
Yeah, definitely. So a quick note for our listeners. So in our upcoming London summit that's going to happen this November, it's a major crypto and FX event on the 14th at the Old Billingsgate, and we're working hard to make it the best, and we would love to see you there. And you, Daniel, will be there also speaking about different trading models. So as a little preview to that, can you talk about what you see as the advantages and disadvantages of centralized exchanges over crypto CFDs and decentralized exchanges?
Okay, I'll talk about the centralized and decentralized and then touch on the CFD side. So the main advantage for a centralized exchange is it's a lot faster. Generally, they say that let me start it this way.
Yeah.
So on the centralized side, it's all about speed and execution, right? And a lot of the technology today is proven. So that's, again, like our NASDAQ matching engine is proven technology. It's been around a long time. So it's scalable. And that's what you really need in this space when you're adding, not hundreds of users a day, but literally 5,000-10,000 users a day. You need to have that scalability to be able to be trading. I know on some of the bigger exchanges, you have anywhere from as little as 70,000 people trading at a single moment to maybe 1 million people trading at a single moment. So the scalability needs to be there. And these centralized exchanges, they really provide that ability today. On the decentralized side, look, there are some decentralized exchanges out there, but for me personally and our team here at DX, we would love nothing more than our exchange to be decentralized, but we just don't believe that the technology is there yet.
Okay.
I meet with probably one or two blockchain type, decentralized partners almost once a week, just to see what they're doing or what kind of speed are they hitting or what are they thinking. And even the big thing was decentralized is safe and it can't be hacked and so on. And yet we're seeing things are starting to be hacked, right? Yeah. So again, because it's a newer technology, so it's I just don't believe right now that the technology is there from a UI experience, from a user experience, from a security point. I would love nothing more than that everybody just controls their own money. We don't touch anything, and then they can control it themselves because it takes a lot of pressure off of us. But right now, I just don't really see that being there. So maybe in another year or two it will, but at the moment it doesn't. As far as the CFD side of it is concerned, I think the good thing about CFDs was it allowed for a bit wider adoption of Bitcoin and Ethereum in a way that was already being traded around by offering it through these FX brokers or CFD brokers out there. So it helped with the wider adoption of it. I know a lot of the brokers had a very, very hard time in hedging a lot of the exposure In 2017 and 2018, it's become a bit easier,
Mhm.
but we've had a number of really large brokers from around the world reaching out to us and getting ready to start integration to connect to the exchange, where they're going to be actually offering direct access to the exchange for their clients.
Okay.
So the clients can either trade on a CFD basis, which is with leverage, or if they just actually want to basically hold it and buy it, because when you're trading with CFDs, I think that the big disadvantage is the overnight charges that they charge. It's crazy amounts. It's literally, wow, it's so much money. But if you actually just hold it, it doesn't cost you anything, right? So a lot of users, I think, would prefer that method.
Mhm.
Of course, if you're a trader and you want to trade with leverage, fine. But a lot of the brokers are now wanting to offer direct access to exchange. We can again hold the crypto on their behalf on our custodial services, and allows people to who are trading CFDs before to actually hold the underlying as well now.
Okay. Well, Daniel, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Anytime. One thing I wanted to also note is at the conference in London, we're going to actually be doing an ICO pitch contest.
Oh,
So
great. Okay.
leading up to that, we're going to be, I think in a week, we're going to be opening up applications for ICOs who want to participate. We'll select 20, and then we'll narrow it down, I believe, to 10 to actually pitch live on stage in the conference, which then, right now maybe one winner or maybe two, we'll see. We'll get a free listing on to the DX exchange. So it'll be quite exciting, I think, to see. And I think for those who come from the FXCFD side who've never been to a crypto conference before, this will be very interesting for them to be able to see what kind of blockchain projects are out there and how they're pitching it and what they're talking about in this new technology. And it's kind of a fun event to actually kind of look at too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really exciting. Okay, well, best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.